Hello everybody, welcome to Just Upright. My name is Doc Jean Ruder. I'm Doctor of Physical Therapy and I am your foreign educated physical therapist guide to U.S. application. I hope you guys are doing great. So listen, March 11, 2023 will be the Philippine Live event, okay, in Makati City, Philippines, in Metro Manila area. So I'm going to be teaching Filipino physical therapists on how to apply to the U.S. the fast way, the right way, and how I can get you connected to direct hire physical therapy employer here in the U.S. So I urge you to get a spot now before it runs out. Limited spots only. The link for registration is down below. Okay, February 25, 2023 is the last day for registration. So if you or anybody you know struggling to go to the US as a physical therapist to apply, couldn't find an employer, just attend the live event, okay? And so we will discuss there. I want to get in touch with Filipino physical therapists to hear how can I help them better and if I can get them connected to the U.S. employer. March 1 is the start of the application for lottery for working visa. So it is very important that we can get you connected as soon as possible. So if you have a PT license here in the U.S. already, you are an NPTE passer, and you already have a license, you're looking for an employer, email me at justuprightllc@gmail.com, okay? And I can have you connected to the employer, go through the interview and whatnot. If everything goes well, so maybe they can file for a working visa for you this coming March 2023, okay? So that's it for the live event in the Philippines, March 11, 2023, the Fast Forward USPT conference, okay? So, and I want to mention that this live event is brought to you by Apex Network Physical Therapy. So they are partnering with me, okay? They are a US-based employer, direct hire, looking for physical therapists. So they are looking for physical therapists to work in Arizona and Illinois, okay? So if you have Arizona license, Illinois license, you want an employer, they are great people to work with. They are very open communication, very responsive with the email, okay? So I want you to get to know them, get in touch with them, and maybe they will be a great fit for you to work here in the US, okay? So what we're going to talk about today is more on the TOEFL, okay? I receive a lot of questions about TOEFL exemption, okay? So the one question that I received that I want to address right now is that, can I take IELTS instead of TOEFL? So for a US application, you cannot take IELTS in replacement of TOEFL. Okay, so you really have to undergo the test of English as foreign language or TOEFL for US application. Okay, so I heard before IELTS is more on for UK application or that's for nursing to the US application, but that's not for physical therapists. Okay, so do not take IELTS if you're a physical therapist wanting to apply here to the US. You're just gonna waste your time and your money, okay? The acceptable English test here is TOEFL, okay? Now, I received an email, from a foreign educated physical therapist. She's living in Canada right now. She took her bachelor's degree in India, and she took a 2-year course in Canada, okay? And she's asking if she is exempted from a TOEFL requirement, okay? So here's the deal, guys. So if you watch my other video, the first thing that you have to do is to determine what state you want to apply, okay? And then each state have different rules. So there are certain states that might get you exempted. If they have a TOEFL requirement, they may get you exempted from a TOEFL requirement if you can submit like a document from your school stating that the mode of education was taught in English, okay? So each state is different. Some state doesn't require you to have a TOEFL examination before you can sit for NPTE or before you can get your or claim your license, okay? There are some states that will require you to have TOEFL. You know, California requires you to pass the TOEFL, the passing grade for TOEFL, okay? So you have to determine what state you want to practice, see the requirements of that state, okay? Now, if you think that, you know, for example, they put on their website that you can be exempted if the school can provide documentation that the mode of education was taught in English, so there's a good probability that you might be exempted from taking the TOEFL before you can take your NPTE, okay? So again, it's a state-by-state basis, depending on what state you're going to apply, okay? So, but here is the deal, guys, okay? So, even if, for example, you apply to a certain state and you got exempted from taking the TOEFL, okay, before you take your NPTE, which is good if you get exempted, but eventually you will need TOEFL to pass the TOEFL if you are not an American citizen and if you do not have an immigrant visa, okay? So, meaning you're a citizen of your own country, you do not have a working visa, you do not have an immigrant visa, you're not an American citizen, you have to undergo the healthcare worker certification, okay? So, for FCCPT, it's type 1 review for immigration, and for CGFNS, they have, or ICD, they have visa screen certificate, okay? So, for healthcare worker certificate, this is required by your employer to file for your working or immigrant visa, okay? So, this is a requirement by the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services for healthcare professionals like you, a physical therapist, to get certified with healthcare worker certificate, okay? And part of the requirement is that you can pass the TOEFL, okay? For physical therapists like us, if you're going to undergo this type 1 review, you must have like a master's level, okay, or master's degree or equivalent, okay, in order for you to get this certificate, okay? So the point is you might get exempted from taking the TOEFL on a state level, but because you will be needing a working or immigrant visa, okay, to work here in the U.S. for an employer to petition you, eventually you still need to pass the TOEFL, okay, for visa purposes, maybe not for NPTE purpose, but for visa purposes, okay? So, for example, in New York doesn't require you to pass TOEFL before you can take the NPTE, okay? So, even if you have a license in New York, but you are not a U.S. citizen, you are not a U.S. immigrant, okay? You will need, if you need an employer to petition you with a working or immigrant visa, or even if you're in Canada and you're gonna use the TN visa, like the trade agreement between Canada and America and the United States, you know, that you can work here temporarily and under the TN visa. It's almost like a working visa, okay? It's a non-immigrant visa. You still need the type 1 review for immigration, okay? So you still need to pass the TOEFL, okay? If you are a Canadian citizen or if you are a Mexican citizen under the TN visa, you still need to pass the TOEFL, okay? So who are exempted, totally exempted from the TOEFL requirement, okay? So let's look at FCCPT and we'll see who are totally exempted from the TOEFL requirement, okay? So we are on FCCPT official website, okay? So this is under the TOEFL exemptions. As you can see here, effective January 1, 2018, California has new exemptions for TOEFL. Applicants who have been awarded bachelor's degree or higher in physical therapy education program from college, university, or professional training school in Australia, any part of Canada other than Quebec, Ireland, New Zealand, and United Kingdom or United States, those are exempted from TOEFL requirement. Okay? All graduates whose first degree in PT was not completed in the United States and who do not meet the above exemption must take TOEFL exam if seeking licensure in California. Okay, so that is for California. In general, okay, all over the U.S., the federal regulation lists the following exceptions to requirement to take TOEFL exam. Okay, so if you're going to get the services of FCCPT, Type 1 review for immigration or Type 1 review for licensure that requires TOEFL, okay, you can be exempted from that TOEFL requirement if you've been awarded a minimum bachelor's degree of any of the following countries: United States, United Kingdom, Ireland, Australia, New Zealand, Canada except Quebec, or if you are a graduate of a CAPT accredited physical therapist education program. Okay? Okay, so going back to this question that I received online on the email, the applicant said I had reviewed the requirements of TOEFL for Illinois State in order to proceed for credential evaluation, but I had seen the exemption for TOEFL, and in that it mentioned that if I had did PT in English language, I am eligible for exception, and other exception was if I did course from Canada. So that also make me eligible for exception for TOEFL. Therefore, I just want to confirm that am I eligible for exception for TOEFL in order to proceed for Illinois State credential evaluation. All right, so to answer that question, I would, if I were you, I would email the Board of Physical Therapy in Illinois and just double check and see if the certification from your school stating that the mode of education was taught in English will be sufficient enough for you to get exempted from TOEFL requirement. Okay, since the bachelor degree was taken from India, so you are and the mode of education is in English, so that might help with the exception from TOEFL if the Board of Physical Therapy in Illinois will accept that. Now, since the course, it's just a course, it's not a degree that was taken in Canada, I am not sure if actually FCCPT will take credit, that credit of the course from Canada, okay? Especially if it is not a core subject or courses that is based on physical therapy program, okay? So, guys, with TOEFL, okay, it is important for you to understand that there is a state, there might be a state requirement depending on what state you're going to practice. Just like I said, California requires you to pass TOEFL. Okay, New York doesn't require you to pass TOEFL. Okay, so that's why it is important. If you haven't downloaded the master list of 50 states, the free PDF file that I have giving away, it's on the description section below. So you always have to start on what state you want to practice. You want to read all the requirements, understand all the requirements. If they have a TOEFL requirement, if they have a jurisprudence exam requirement, if they require social security number, okay, before you can even apply, okay, or before you can even claim your license. So those are important things that you have to take note of, okay? And if you have any doubt, the best thing to do is to email the Department of Physical Therapy of that state. Ask them directly your question because they are the best to answer your inquiries, okay? So I hope, guys, that is helpful. If you have any video suggestion, comment, okay, just put them down on the link below. Share this video to anyone you know who will benefit from it. Okay, also subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. It will really help the channel for us to reach as many foreign educated physical therapists as much as I can and help them get here to the US the faster, the right way, so that they can start living their dreams. Okay, so thank you so much for watching. Until the next video, stay blessed.